We are very happy to greet you here at our webinar that AB Northwestern Regional Committee is proud to hold this morning. Для тех, кто не говорит по-английски, доброе утро, уважаемые коллеги, и сообщаем вам с радостью, что на нашем сегодняшнем вебинаре доступен перевод на русский язык и, соответственно, наоборот, на английский. Вы можете выбрать необходимый язык, нажав на кнопочку в виде глобуса внизу экрана. Если у вас появятся вопросы, задавайте их в секции Q&A. Ну и обратите внимание, что чат в нашем мероприятии не работает. Ну и последнее, мы предупреждаем вас о том, что ведется запись. Good morning again. For those who do not speak Russian, because we have a speaker who will speak Russian, you can use the globe button to switch between languages. And welcome again to our webinar. We have a very interesting topic today, a very hot topic, and very interesting speakers we have prepared for you, very prominent ones. And I'm very happy that we are holding this event today. And for the opening remarks, I am very happy to present and give floor to our CEO of the Association of European Businesses, Mr. Takже Schilling. Takже?
Anton, thank you so much, and good morning, everybody. Dear panelists, dear participants, dear AEB members. Indeed, sustainable waste management in a circular economy. That's one of the key topics currently in the discussion on the wider green agenda, and we decided that sharing the experience of European countries is probably a very valuable contribution to this discussion. You know that the discussion is a global discussion, that the green agenda has also picked up speed in Russia on various vectors in various directions. We've seen legislation developing in the area of greenhouse gas management. We have seen legislation developing in the area of waste management, extended producer responsibility, and so on, energy efficiency. This event is organized in this format already the second time. Last year it was devoted to the consequences of the pandemic in Europe and Russia. We were also sharing experiences, and so this format of having a hot topic and sharing European practices has also proved itself. By the way, European practices, as we were joking before the start of the event with our panelists, is in a wide sense. We have representatives from non-European countries as well. We have a distinguished general consul from Israel. And this, I think, is truly also what makes AEB and its community unique. So circular economy is a system of closed loops in which raw materials, components, and products lose their value as little as possible and remain constantly in use without dropping out. And this circularity obviously is then a major contribution to making the world, the economy, our social life more sustainable. And in the essence, this kind of creation of a circular economy is about implementing 3 R's. We are now, everybody is talking about, especially in the German-speaking world, about the 3 G's, about being tested, about being vaccinated, and being or having recovered, which is getestet, geimpft oder genesen. But in our context of circular economy, we speak about the 3 R's, which are reducing use of raw materials and minimizing waste, reusing of products, components, packaging, and recycling. So the things that cannot immediately be reused to process them and to then reuse them either in a different form or from the beginning of the loop. And the role of the AEB in this whole complex of questions and debates is that we, as usual, we are independent. We are not. We are a non-commercial organization. We belong to our members. We are not funded by either the Russian or the EU side. So this is to make the voice of European business heard in this debate and to present the position of our members. We want to draw attention to certain implications that new draft legislation, new laws present. Sometimes it's about risks. Sometimes it's about what else could be done. We always adopt a very constructive position. We want to help to improve the investment climate. We want to help to improve the quality of legislation and to achieve these goals, because the goals above, the achievement of a circular economy and the higher degree of sustainability is a goal that is fully shared, endorsed, and integrated in what we do at AEB. The joint efforts of business are absolutely not in vain. If you look, for instance, at the current legislative process regarding the extended producer responsibility and waste management, we see that in the first version of this legislation, there were quite unrealistic recycling standards, other regulations regarding how to organize recycling, which were not corresponding to how business, not only European, but also Russian business, was seeing this question. And thus, the joint efforts that we applied to this were successful, and the current legislation the draft that has been proposed has been returned to the authors, and they are now updating it. So that's also to show that what we do is not just idle talk. It is also really sharing these insights, the best practices, the know-how that is in the community of AEB with our stakeholders, and making sure it will have actually tangible results for our members, of course, but also for the wider stakeholder community, including, and in the end, most importantly, for the Russian population. I would like to thank especially the speakers of today's event, the general consuls of various European and non-European diplomatic representations. I would like to thank the experts. I would like to thank all the AEB office holders, Ernesto Ferlenghi from the Green Initiative and Anton Rasadin from the Northern Western Regional Committee for having organized this event, for having found a very relevant topic for the second edition. And I would like to wish all of you very fruitful discussions, good interaction, and I hope this is only the starting point of things that are going to happen. Sorry, I forgot. I would also like to thank our friends from the EU that have joined us today, and it's really great to have everybody. It's an impressive lineup. Now, without further ado, I'm handing back so that we can start the interesting topic. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Tajo. And as you mentioned, we have Ernesto Ferlenghi with us, who is the chair of our steering group, AB Green Initiative, and also chair of the AB Energy Committee. And I would love to give him a few minutes for his remarks today. Ernesto?
Thank you, Anton. Good morning to everyone. Thank you. Let me share with you some few slides. We'll try to be very quick, but it's important to have a potential sharing approach. Hopefully, you will see my presentation on the screen. If it's okay, do you see it?
Yes,
Wonderful.
We can.
Thank you. We move forward. where we launched this initiative. So it's very evident to everyone, world is changing so fast, and the new culture of sustainable strategy, you see all the 193 countries under the Paris Agreement adopt a new strategy, of course, in order to reduce GHG emission. Of course, CO2 is one of the most important things, component of that GHG emission, but we are looking forward to the long-term transition to a greener economy. Of course, this impact on the economy of the country, impact of the industry, financial system, whatever, is all the case, social society. And in February 2021, internally, after the EB approval in the board, and with the support of Takže and all the EB team that I want to thank particularly for the effort done every day, we create and launch this initiative. So you see on the screen, this is the steering committee. This is the main component body of what we consider one integrator of the idea, which came up from the 3 working group you see on the bottom: future of energy, green financing, carbon management. So we collect then green finances, that's under the culture of the ESG culture, and the impressive work done and the support from the financial world and the banks and the analysts, investor. Everything is changing so fast that we have to consider the importance of that part of the working group. Carbon management, we are talking about CCUS, new technology needed in order to decrease and capture the CO2 emission. We are talking about forest, and you know how much important is for Russia this component, and of course emission trading system. ATS is one of the key pillar, part of the sharing approach we are having with the Russian counterpart, because in Europe we started the emission trading system has been adopted in more than 25 years ago. So I mean, we have quite huge experience, and we want to share with them the approach. We have different business case that we want to be able to increase in terms of relation with the Russian counterpart, because that creates a concrete opportunity for our members, for the European companies. And of course, future of energy, hydrogen, renewables, waste treatment, circular economy, of course, one of the key pillars. What we want to do, we have always, and this is thanks to AB and Takže, that we have to be always very well coordinated between our initiative and the different 60 working groups and committees that we have internally. That's very important that all of you has to be aware. We have to participate together to this, because thanks to this is why I said the bottom-up principle, thanks to the improvement, ideas, proposal, passion, energy that you put under these 3 working groups, we come to the steering committee, we elaborate a kind of strategy, we come back to the board, and we propose some different initiative. Key stakeholders, some of them are, of course, are part of exactly the same that you probably have, but President Administration, Dilgariev, advisor to the President, Chubais, of course, the Minister of Economic Development, simply because they are has been appointed as a main driver in order to implement and elaborate the new strategy on the reduction emission. Of course, EU delegation, thanks also for the support we have received by them, and the 2 different committees we have in the Duma, so the Energy Committee and the Ecology one. So both of them are included in the discussion of the new law. We'll see later on. And of course, we are part of the process to giving some support when asked by the 2 different committees. WebRF, important because under the new agreement, that will be implemented the strategy elaborated by the Ministry of Economic Development. RCPB, everybody recognize the strong industrial lobby they have, the 3 committees they have inside. Of course, Ministry of Energy has to be, because the so-called energy sector, the tech in Russian, is so important. Is one, as you know, the 75% of the emission belong to the energy part. So we have to consider the strong relation and coordination with the Ministry of Energy, and the huge investment done in the oil and gas and the upstream sector in Russian. And that's why it's very important, will impact on the technology. Let me highlight that the 40% of technology that will be used in order to reach the carbon neutrality is not in place. So we have plenty of initiatives that can be promoted between Europe and Russia in order to find out how to discover this technology. And of course, you see later on, Sakhalin government is very important, because you know they will be implemented a new pilot project in Sakhalin, the first time in Russia for that project. ecosystem where we are. So where IB and the different key part of our initiative are involved. So you see Ministry of Economic Development, we see Takže, myself are involved in the different working group and different agency, giving our support, sharing information, discussing with them our point of view. Of course, as I said, State Duma, Minister of Energy, and you see at the end the RCPP. Lobbying activity. So it's very important that we keep relation with them, because you see that in the last 1.5 years, 2 years, let me say, they really Russia demonstrated that they want to improve the decarbonization process. That's very important, because they are, for the first time in Russia, they introduced from 2023 and 2025, the first time there will be the new law on the voluntary basis that will catch the level of emission of CO2 in the country. So that's very good, important news. Taxonomy is the new methodology that will be adopted in order to recognize if a project can be considered green or not, and if green, they can access to the specific financing system. It's very important to highlight in Russia that the climate bond initiative just in Glasgow a few days ago, COP26, has been recognized that the new taxonomy elaborated by the WebRF can be considered aligned with international best practice. That's very important. That will increase the number of investment. And of course, the low carbon strategy. So we know that Russia has signed the Paris Agreement and has been adopted the new philosophy of the carbon neutrality in 2060. But they have to recognize both of in the government that needs a huge amount of money that has to be invested. 1% of GDP in 2020 from 2022 until 2030, but even increasing up to 2% of GDP in the next time. So let me share with you the fact that at the world level, the overall amount of investment to be done in order to reach the carbon neutrality is in the amount of $3-4 trillion on the yearly basis. So huge amount of investment. And the last one is the important experiment done by the Sakhalin project, Sakhalin region. This is the first time in the project, first time in the country that will be adopted a new specific law at the federal level in the Duma, which we consider will be approved before the end of the year. Event that we organize, I mean, although of course the kickoff meeting, internal meeting between the two working group that I presented, part of the steering committee. Of course, we have asking by the Moscow region to present their view on the green bond that has been issued. That's very good experience done. So dedicated financing for the green project. And of course, CBAM, you know, CBAM in Russian tour is something very on which is very sensitive, all the Russian companies, because they are quite still huge dependence on the export, mainly oil and gas. As you know, 40% of the federal budget depend on the export of fossil reserves. So that's why it's very so sensitive Russia on this. In order to decrease the levels of dependence from the CBAM potential impact, of course, they have to invest on the industry in order to increase the energy efficiency, but at the same time, they will increase the level of competitiveness of the country and of the companies. Of course, WebRF, as I said, we are going, by the way, to sign a new agreement memorandum with the WebRF. And of course, all the different meetings that we have with Takže, I mean, these are all the things because we consider important first to create a kind of specific relation with the counterpart stakeholders in order to understand which strategy they have in mind, how much they are going to invest in the different sectors. For us, understanding the investment plan they have in mind means we can select the different European company which would like to participate to this potential investment. Of course, forums, conference, we have to be visible, we have to increase our visibility of AB, of our initiative, because we consider that part of the future, not only for this present and future generation will come from this initiative. As I said, memorandum of understanding to be signed WebRF, Russian Energy Agency, university. Let me concentrate for a while on that specific. We are talking about new generation, we are talking about students. That's why we promote also the dialogue between European university and the Russian one, in order to create a kind of platform to share experience, to share technology, to share best case, legal framework. That's very important. We did under the coordination of the Plejano University, but even the others, MGU, High School of Economics, and the others are participating in that process. That's very important, that we share the competence of the companies with the new generation, with the students. And of course, as we said, the new ongoing initiative that on which we are already working, that has been already part of the pipelines for the 2022. Most hopefully we'll share with you all the information, the results, outcome, and of course, please let me say, I myself, all our steering committee are at your disposal. Any kind of suggestion, any kind of specific request, comments, let us know. We are of course here to improve it. Of course, the mass media, very important. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you to all of you. Have a nice day to everyone.
Thank you, Ernesto. And it was very good to hear about so many directions, so many initiatives, so many basically actions that are there on the agenda. And it will be very good to hear today about specific countries' experiences, specific nations' experiences, and specific businesses' experiences that would illustrate and colorate this picture. I think it's very important for us to get together quite often to check the clock and to see that we are going in the same direction, that we share the experiences and learn from each other, which is very important because we live in the same little world, which we are trying to save with all these initiatives. And it is my pleasure to go to a compatriot of Ernesto, Mr. Federico Porra, who is a policy officer for circular economy from the Directorate for Sustainable Products, Production and Consumption, Directorate General for Environment of the European Commission. Mr. Porra, it's a pleasure to have you here with us this morning. What about the implementing of the circular economy business models in EU and Russia? And what about the experiences that we are all here to share?
Thank you, Mr. Asadin, and of course, thanks for the organization for inviting us to participate to today's event. I'm going to share my my PowerPoint presentation, so you should see it in a minute. And indeed, I think you should see it by now.
Yes, we can see it. It's better to switch to the slideshow mode.
I think it's fine.
Very good.
Super.
Yeah, thank you.
So thanks again. Indeed, I will share with you to start today's conversation with the experiences that we are currently implementing at the European Union level with regards to the circular economy, with the idea, of course, to see what's relevant it is indeed for the context in which we are discussing today. I need to start, and we shall start when it comes to the European Union initiatives and experience from the so-called European Green Deal, which I would say many of you are already familiar with. The European Green Deal is a multi-level, I would say, plan to turn Europe's economy to climate neutral by 2050. We've already seen and heard much about it, including in Glasgow very recently last week. But what is important for the context of the circular economy, I would say, is that circular economy is one of the main pillars of the European Green Deal infrastructure, meaning a series of actions, legislations, but also non-legislative initiatives that are set to turn European's economy from linear to circular in the next future. At the same time, and this is very important to understand also what we do to mainstream circular economy. The pillar on circular economy is very important vertically, I would say, to, of course, support industry to turn circular, including our consumption. But at the same time, when it comes to, for example, addressing, as you can see here, the other aspects that are related with the circular economy and together with the European Green Deal, for example, smart mobility, for example, clean energy, for example, protection of nature, circular economy consideration, so recycling, but also reducing waste, are being mainstreamed in all we do when it comes to the European Green Deal. So what I will do now is to zoom in into the circular economy aspect of the Green Deal while considering, and this is one of the main messages here, as I mentioned before, the circular economy is also being mainstreamed in the other areas of EU policy legislations. The action plan that it's important to, I would say, mention here for your benefit is the Circular Economy Action Plan. The Circular Economy Action Plan has been adopted by the European Commission, that for those of you that are not aware, is in charge to propose legislation, and then such legislation, when relevant, is also being negotiated by the co-legislator at the European Union level, namely the Council, representing the Member States government, and the European Parliament. And this action plan includes 35 actions. Those 35 actions are both legislative for some of them, but also non-legislative and supportive action, for example, for industry, that are set to, in this current Commission's mandate, so until 2024, produce a change in the way, of course, Europe consumes and produces. We mentioned before the importance of waste management, of course, it is very important. But one of the messages that I would like to share with you today on the approach that the European Commission and the European Union as a whole is adopting when it comes to the circular economy transition is to try to, I would say, mirror the legislative and non-legislative approach and policy approach towards circular economy to the very same definition of circular economy. And therefore addressing, of course, waste management, but also, for example, the way products are put into the EU market, for example, with eco-design, sustainable consumption, secondary raw materials, including the market of secondary raw material that is indeed a key component of an efficient circular economy, and therefore closing the loops of products by targeted actions. You see here that at the same time, we will also target specific, we call them in the Circular Economy Action Plan, key products value chain. That's, I would say, quite an abstract definition that we could summarize with priority sectors. So sectors in which we see an opportunity for the transition to happen on the ground in the short term. And these in the red box are the ones that are under our radar to be priority implementing sectors for the circular economy in the next few years. So we have electronics and ICT, batteries and vehicles, packaging, plastics, and the plastics, of course, is also a follow-up to the previous Circular Economy Action Plan that was adopted and fully implemented by the previous Commission's mandate under Jean-Claude Juncker. Textiles, construction and buildings, food, water, and nutrients. With the overall idea, of course, to increase recycling, as we mentioned before, but also, and even most importantly, in the long term of the concept of circular economy, reducing waste in the first place. At the same time, we are introducing on the right side of the screen a set of enabling actions that are set to support us in implementing these circular economy visions. So, of course, looking at the nexus, for example, between circular economy and climate neutrality, looking at supporting green finance on circular economy, namely, for example, the work ongoing to come up with a proposal for example, circular economy taxonomy within the Sustainable Finance Action Plan that the European Union is in parallel implementing in the context of the Green Deal. And of course, also the global angle of circular economy, which I will focus on later in my short presentation, and investment and research innovation support, including non-financial support for businesses in order, of course, to make sure that the businesses at the EU level are part of the transition and actually the main actors in order to bring innovation into the market that indeed we need to make the circular economy efficient and functioning. What to expect next, just for your information, in the first quarter 2022, we will be rolling part of the so-called Sustainable Product Policy Framework, that is a set of initiatives that are aiming of making products more sustainable in the EU market. Sustainable Products Initiative is the landmark initiative that I will share with you very, very quickly in a few seconds. And also some proposals on aiming at supporting sustainable consumption in the EU. These initiatives are, of course, applying to the European Union single market, so to the internal market. And we will also apply this framework to the first set of priority sectors, namely textiles and namely electronics. You can see down below revision of rules of waste shipments that is part of the waste angle of this comprehensive action plan. It has a different format in the slide, because today, so the 17th of November, is the day in which we expect and we are about to adopt this initiative to indeed revision and modify the rules that are currently in place for waste shipments in the EU and vis-a-vis third countries. The Sustainable Products Initiative, very quickly, it's very important because, as you might know, up to 80% of products and environmental impacts are determined at the design phase. So the idea of this products initiative is to create a set of sustainable principles that are going to be introduced into EU legislation by expanding the so-called Eco-Design Directive. There is a directive, so a set of legislation that is introducing minimum, we can call them requirements for products to enter the EU markets. So far, this directive was focused on energy-related products, for example, televisions. The idea is to expand the scope to new product categories. For example, we mentioned before textiles. On the level of waste, we're also working and very active, and you'll see here a bunch of a number of initiatives to modify and adapt EU waste legislation that is already, and we recognize, very ambitious to the circular economy in the future. For example, we will continue to modernize EU waste law on specific sectors in 2020. So at the end of 2020, we have already adopted proposal on batteries, very important batteries, not only for circular economy, but also for our all clean energy transition, of course. And we are working on another set of sectoral initiatives. And packaging, for example, is in the pipeline and is work in progress to be adopted, better proposed to the co-legislators, the Parliament and the Council over the course of 2022, but also address waste exports, as we mentioned before, with today's proposals, to basically also support the processing of materials. The final part of my short presentation of 10 minutes is regarding the global angle of circular economy. It's clear, and the European Commission, as well as EU member states and EU delegations, have clear in mind the consideration according to which, indeed, to make the circular economy working and functioning, we need to progress together as an international community, indeed. And that's why, under the context of UNEA 5.1, so in 2021, we have launched together with the UN, with the United Nations Development Office, a global circular economy and resource efficiency alliance with like-minded countries that are willing to cooperate together and exchange good practices on circular economy. This is, of course, an initiative that's set to complement other existing initiatives to make sure that we have the right channels in place to exchange on what's needed for the circular economy transition at the global level. At the same time, the Circular Economy Action Plan has announced in 2020 the idea and the objective for the EU to work towards a situation to kickstart negotiation for a global agreement on plastics. So to create the right framework for plastics to become, for example, at the forefront of the circular economy transition. Here together with other ongoing initiatives, for example, outreach activities, and working together with the right colleagues within, of course, the Commission, but also other institutions to make sure that circular economy is also relevant and introduced in current and future free trade agreements. So I would say this is all from me. I have decided, of course, to keep it short to support following speakers in complementing with, for example, initiatives and good practices at the member state level at the EU, but also outside of the EU. If there is anything question, of course, I will be happy to follow up later on. But indeed, the main message here that I would like to share with you is that it's work ongoing at the EU level. We have, I would say, an ambitious package of initiatives that we are able and willing to implement, while at the same time making sure that we have a clear channel of cooperation with internally with businesses, for example, like we do have, but also outside of the EU with our international partners for making the transition not only at the EU level, but also global. And today is one of the examples of such cooperation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Federico. And I understand that all the speakers are really living their topics with all their hearts. That's why they can't just stop talking about that and telling us about that. And I fully understand that. I fully share this commitment and dedication of yours, but we have an agenda and we have quite a strict schedule to stick to. So I'm really asking all the following speakers to stick to the timing and perhaps even to shorten a little bit your presentations, because we are a little behind the schedule already. Anyway, I'm not blaming the previous speakers for that. I fully understand again this commitment and dedication. It's just a request, a polite request from my side to shorten a little if possible. And still, thank you very much again, Federico, for presenting the EU circular economy perspective. And we would like to switch to the Russian perspective and invite Ruslan Gubaydulin, Executive Director from the Association Clean Country, who will continue this topic from the Russia side. Ruslan?
Добрый день, коллеги. Меня хорошо слышно?
Да.
Да, здравствуйте. Я Руслан Губайдулин, возглавляю Ассоциацию «Чистая страна». Мы объединяем операторов по обращению с отходами. Члены моей ассоциации обслуживают 70 миллионов человек и работают в 46 регионах Российской Федерации. Действительно, говоря о циклической экономике в Российской Федерации, это новое слово, и оно пересекается с биоэкономикой, с низкоуглеродной экономикой. И все-таки центральной идеей является для нас это уход от ископаемого топлива и развитие новых технологий. Но сегодня я буду говорить более узко об обращении с отходами. Действительно, проблема отходов стоит в нашей стране очень остро. В нашей стране ежегодно порядка 90% отходов поступают на полигоны. Это порядка 60 миллионов тонн. Мы этим гордиться не можем и с этим боремся, с этой проблемой. Каждый россиянин порядка 450 килограммов отходов образует. И по прогнозам нашей счетной палаты увеличение отходов происходит где-то на 1-2% в год. И ничего мы с этим пока сделать не можем. Это значит, абсолютно связано с ростом благосостояния и количеством упаковки. Кроме того, все мы и коллеги из других стран тоже заметили, что морфология мусора из-за ковида изменилась, появилось гораздо больше пластика, в том числе из-за увеличения онлайн-доставки и развития онлайн-торговли. У нас в России работает национальный проект «Экология». Я хотел бы всем коллегам из других стран, чтобы они зашли на сайт нас проекта «Экология», изучили все те 11 направлений, по которым он сейчас реализуется. Все, что касается отходов, это 3 федеральных проекта, которые входят в нас проект «Экология». Первый – это формирование комплексной системы по обращению с отходами. Это появление в России сейчас Института региональных операторов по обращению с ТКО. У нас порядка более 170 компаний сейчас работает в этом направлении. Задача выстроить систему привлечения инвестиций в твердую коммунальную отходы. У нас появился Институт развития в Российской Федерации как публично-правовая компания «Российский экологический оператор». Второе направление у нас – это ликвидация несанкционированных свалок. В России был проведен аудит, и 191 крупная свалка, 191, подчеркиваю, возле крупных городов будет рекультивирована за счет средств федерального бюджета. И третье направление по отходам, которое входит в национальный проект «Экология», это создание современной инфраструктуры, обеспечивающей безопасное обращение с отходами 1 и 2 класса опасности. Это опасные отходы, типа батареек и тому подобное. Этим занимается у нас компания «Росатом», одна из крупнейших компаний, имеющая компетенции и мощности для того, чтобы этот проект выполнить. В 89-м законе Российской Федерации у нас заложена иерархия по обращению с отходами государственной политики. Сверху пойду, это прежде всего максимальное использование исходного сырья, материалов, потом предотвращение образования отходов, сокращение образования отходов и уже потом обработка и утилизация, что полностью корреспондируется с теми принципами 3R, которые реализуются в мировом экологическом сообществе. Кроме того, чтобы вовлечь производителя в жизненный цикл производимых товаров, в России сейчас внедряется уже обновленная версия, концепция расширенной ответственности производителя. В первую очередь РОП направлен на контроль за упаковкой, на повышение процента ее переработки и утилизации, а также возврат в производственный цикл после соответствующей подготовки. Все эти действия у нас консолидированы национальными целями. Еще раз хочу отметить, что президент Владимир Владимирович Путин поставил четкую задачу к 2030 году по нашему направлению добиться первого – 100% обработки всех твердых коммунальных отходов. И вторая цель – это сокращение полигонного захоронения на 50%, то есть в 2 раза. Вот. Понятно, что есть много сложностей, но мы идем широкими шагами к этим целям. Есть сейчас серьезная работа с бизнесом, не только с нами, с бизнесом как с переработчиками, но с бизнесом, который образует отходы. Они понимают, что это существенные затраты для них, что нужно менять свои бизнес-модели, внедрять циклические практики. Мы считаем, что перспективным важным направлением работы с упаковкой является продумывание упаковки таким образом, чтобы сократить ее производство и использование. Зачем что-то перерабатывать, если можно это вообще не производить? В этом направлении уже есть определенные подвижки. Кроме того, мы понимаем, что одно из важных направлений – это восстановление природных систем. Еще один важный тренд, который тесно связан с переходом на циклическую экономику, когда вышедшие из цикла отходы не создают проблему, а обогащают природные системы и несут им вреда. Поэтому задача вот этого круговорота элементов, она стоит перед нами таким образом. Я хотел бы сказать еще о том, что наша циклическая экономика в рамках концепции устойчивого развития вкладывается в цель устойчивого развития ООН. Прежде всего, это 6-я цель, чистая вода и санитария, 8-я цель, достойная работа, экономический рост, 11-я цель, устойчивые города и населенные пункты, 12-я цель, ответственное потребление и производство, а также борьба с изменением климата, сохранение морских систем и сохранением экосистем суши. То есть к этим целям мы идем, внедряя циклическую экономику на территории Российской Федерации. В сфере обращения с отходами Российской Федерации работает порядка 200 тысяч человек. Это целая новая отрасль. Идет развитие с точки зрения компетенции, образования. В эту тему включаются вузы. Каждый вуз сейчас хочет быть зеленым и готовить кадры. Мы очень надеемся, что наши зарубежные коллеги, выступающие после, тоже обратят на Россию как на большой рынок по своим технологиям. Мы вас всех приглашаем, всех участников Ассоциации европейского бизнеса на большое мероприятие, которое будет проходить в Сколково 16-18 марта, которое называется, мы его проводим, которое в поддержку нас проект экологии, который называется форум-выставка «Чистая страна». Присылайте своих спикеров, выставляйтесь, все направления современной экологии Российской Федерации будут там озвучены и приняты в действие. Большое спасибо за внимание.
Спасибо большое, Руслан. Спасибо в том числе, что услышали мой призыв немножечко подсократиться. Замечательное выступление и замечательные новости, которые вы сегодня озвучили. Thank you very much, Ruslan. And we are going to individual countries' experiences now. And this block is opened by the country which is not a part of EU officially, but still, at least geographically, legally a part of Europe, definitely, no doubt. And it's my pleasure to present to you Mr. Consul General of the Kingdom of Norway in St. Petersburg, Richard Scarborough, with his general overview and regulatory issues in Norway. Mr. Scarborough.
Thank you very much, Anton. And hello, everyone. And thanks to AAB for organizing this event for us all. And thank you also for the very timely initiative to limit our time as official speakers and rather leave more time for companies that, for us, represent the real bridge to the Russian market. As I briefly move on to present the government of Norway's plans in this area. I think that basically it would be fair to say, like you did, Anton, that Norway is indeed a member of the not the European Union, but very much so of the single market. We fully participate in the single market, and therefore most of my remarks could be taken just directly from Federico's presentation, and some of our government's plans will simply be our national way to implement EU plans and standards. We have a new government, so therefore it is very fair for me to just present in, not in detail, but their intentions for the next 4 years, as their plans have not yet been worked out in detail. So the new government is headed by the Labour Party and the Centre Party, and their intentions are to boost the circular economy in Norway by moving away from former linear economy where we use resources and then they end up somewhere just being waste. So the intention is to see how we can increase industrial production and workplaces in Norway also by doing this. Sorry, that was a little mistake.
I thought that was over.
No. Can you see now?
Yes, we can. The first slide.
There we go. Yes. Yeah. So basically, to give you a short overview of the measures planned, the government will develop a reuse strategy, even for properties, and a new action plan to reduce waste. For waste management, we intend to process more waste locally. It is now, to a certain extent, exported, for instance, to Sweden. We will emphasize buildings and reusing materials for buildings as well, and use climate-friendly materials. There will be several measures introduced to provide better information to consumers on the products they choose and their impacts. Norway has for a long time been a leader in reusing plastics, especially bottles, and we will now move on to stronger implementation of recycling of packaging in other firms, 100% recycling of batteries, as a plant is also being built right now in Norway to recycle car batteries. The government will consider taxes on resources that are used and as new, that is not being recycled. And we will also, like in Russia, consider more measures to hold producers responsible for the life cycle of products. And Norway also put special emphasis, as it has for a long time, on CCS, that is carbon capture and storage, in terms of reducing CO2 emissions. So that's all from my side. Please do consider joining us on social media. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Richard. Yes, indeed, the experience of Norway is very relevant today, especially for us here in the Northwest, because we are close neighbors with Norway, and of course the structure, the economy structure, is also very similar, and that's why it's important to learn both countries' experiences and share them. And one of that experience, of those experiences that we would like to present to you now, is an experience of a Russian factory of a Norwegian producer, quite well-known producer, that is located in St. Petersburg, and it's my pleasure to give the floor to my colleague Елена Poplavskaya from Jotun Paints. Елена, очень рад вас видеть сегодня здесь. Вы прекрасно выглядите. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Anton. Thank you, Richard. I'm happy to be here. And Jotun factory is speaking from the heart of Tosny region of Leningrad Oblast. So we are not in St. Petersburg, we are in Leningrad Oblast. And we are part of very famous chemical company that produce paints. And my presentation will be about our practical experience in waste recycling and waste reduction. I do not see my presentation, hope it will be soon. But before it will be loaded, on the first slide, you can see penguins. It's a very important part of our culture, of our penguin, so-called penguin spirit of our company. And in a few slides, I'll explain what it is. Next slide, please. So we are the part of a big and old company that was established in 1926 in Norway, in Sandefjord. When to founder of our company, Old Gladys, came absolutely brilliant idea that a whale fleet that goes to harbor of Sandefjord can be protected better if to use special paint that will stop development of shells and sea organisms on the ships. And from this year, the history of our successful history of our company was started. Next slide, please. Now, Jotun worldwide, it's a very big and very famous company that is consists of 38 production facilities, 38 factories, and you can see how big it is. And it's also important for our successful waste story, because we can use very good experience of all factories that are located in different regions of the world and to use their best ideas how to reduce waste. Next slide, please. Jotun, Russia, it's a factory that is located in Leningrad district in Tosna region. And we were opened in 2018. Several distributing offices and a lot of warehouses that are spread all around Russia. Business of Jotun in Russia, it's marine coatings, it's protective coatings for the metal and different constructive elements. And it's also powder coating for domestic appliances. And I see at least one of our clients is sitting here, it's Anton, Bosch and Siemens, yes. It's one of our clients.
Indeed,
Next
yes.
slide, please. Next slide, please. And so it's a lot of companies, it's a lot of people, a lot of beliefs. People are different, and what unites us? It's our core values. It's our Jotun spirit. And why on the first slide it was penguin? Because it was decided that these core values that are loyalty, care, respect, and boldness can be they can be illustrated by penguins. Why penguins? Because they're friendly, they're team workers, they can withstand to any adverse events, to any adverse conditions, like our pains, like our company, like our people, and boldness. And penguin spirit influence us and influence our success greatly. And I'll explain how it can be shown and illustrated in our waste reduction program. Next slide, please. Factory in Leningrad Oblast, 8 offices, 280 employees in Russia. And you see some of our products and some of our best projects below on the slides. Next slide, please. Here is how our factory looks like. And the design of our factory, absolutely environmentally friendly. It's a different story, and it's we can talk about a lot because the factory was designed to be friendly to water, to air, to waste. We are certified to all applicable standards. It's to ISO 9001, 15001, and to the safety standards. Next slide, please. And now we go directly to waste on the next slide. We are a chemical factory. So during our production cycle, we use raw materials that are chemicals. So it's powder raw materials, dry raw materials, and it's wet raw materials. It's solvents, it's epoxy resins, and different other types of raw materials. And because of our operation, we have, as a result, solvents as a waste, powder and paint waste, packaging that is contaminated with chemicals, plastic film and plastic that is also contaminated with chemicals, metal and pellets, different cans, drums, paper, cardboard, and the major problem is that the waste can be contaminated with chemicals. And if the waste is contaminated, you have nothing to do with this except to send it to landfill. Each type of our waste, and we provided very good segregation of waste, at least on types, is defined by a special poster, special sign, where it's written exactly what are the hazards of this waste, where it should go, and how to handle this waste. Next slide, please. For us, it's very important to provide the principle of right first time, even for the waste, not only for the production, but for the waste also. If we work with our waste not accurately, if we give a chance to our waste to be polluted with chemicals, we have nothing to do with this. And because of this, we work very accurately with our waste. We are trying not to pollute it with chemicals, and thus we can give the second life to our waste and send it to recycling. We provided special, we called it navigator of waste, where is written where the waste is generated, where it should go, to what type of container, where this container is located, and what we should do with this waste. Should we sort it on the workplace inside of production, or should we sort it inside of waste handling area? Waste is provided with proper and very detailed waste labeling, and each operator in production passed through the special training, and all waste activities are supported by weekly waste inspections. Next slide, please. It's a very big and very extensive operator involvement in waste reduction program. If our operators are not interested in waste separation and in waste reduction, the whole program definitely will not be successful. And here the important part of our success is our penguin spirit, because what is inside of this penguin spirit is also to be the champions. If we said we'd like to be the champions in waste reduction, we'd like to achieve our goals, our operators are supporting these ideas. And you see here on this slides examples of waste segregation inside of production. Next slide, please. Is our waste story successful? Yes, I see it's quite successful. On the first graph, you can see by the red columns total production. Our total production is increased through the year, starting from the opening of the factory. But you see that amount of waste generated more or less flat. It means that the behind this is the reduction of waste it is. Waste produced for, on the next slide, you can see, sorry, can you go back? On the next graph, you can see the waste kilos for produced tons. It more or less flat already 2 years. And the rise of recycling degree starting from 2018 till this year. Now recycling degree, even for the chemical waste, is 38%. It's quite good recycling degree for the Russia, I think. Next slide, please. Very important for us is to find good waste companies, and we are always trying to find new opportunities in this. Only today I signed new contract for the solvents that give us the better logistics, the better cost of our used solvents, and you can see it on this graph that the waste we sold in rubles is increasing and increasing. Even for the part of this year, and the year is not finished, we are already very close to the amount sold last year. And I'm quite sure that the end of this year will sell not less for 3 million rubles for recycled waste. Next slide, please. What is our opportunities and what is our goals? We are quite sure this is not achievable goal. It's quite smart that we can raise recycling by the end of next year up to 60% through the careful sorting. How to achieve this careful sorting? Using the opportunities of the best practices of Yotun, we found that in Malaysia factory in Malaysia, it's very good waste handling area with a good possibility to waste sorting. And we decided to have the same project here in Leningrad Oblast, and our new waste area will be organized like on photo that you can see below, like in Malaysia. Also, we'd like to reduce the amount of generated waste per ton up to 50 kilos per ton produced. Now it's slightly, something roughly like 55 kilos per ton. How we can achieve it? Through changes to our waste reduction program, we appointed waste coordinators in each department, in which production department, and the waste coordinator, it's not managers, it's operators who should collect the best ideas from the operators for waste reduction, and we should implement these solutions next year. We'll update our waste stream mapping. We'll try to change our internal waste logistics, and also we are working with updated technological process. It's not only recycle waste, it's also reuse program of our waste. We can use some of our waste 2 times inside of production. And also the quality directly correlate with the waste amount. If we produce our products right first time without second grade or without bad quality, it means that we produce less waste. Next slide, please. And here is nearly all. I'd like to go to next slide. I used, maybe it's too free to use this quotation from Alice in Wonderland. If you don't know where you are going, any road will take you there. But here I interpret it as it's our small steps on the road to more sustainable future, and use any opportunity you have, any chance. If contribution will be negligible, use any chance to reduce your waste. That's all from my side.
Thank you very much, Elena. And it's a very funny quotation you've chosen, I must admit. But indeed, we feel sometimes a little bit lost on that way to the greener economy and to the greener world. And perhaps indeed we have to consider any opportunity that we can take that may bring us there. That could be also an approach to consider. Indeed. Thank you very much again. And now to perhaps one of the biggest economic partners of Russia in the EU, and our very good partner, Germany. And it is my pleasure to invite Frau Koch-Egli, who is Deputy Consul General of Germany in St. Petersburg, with the general overview and regulatory issues from the German side. Ute?
Thank you very much. Welcome to all. I would like to point out some words about the Circular Economy Act in Germany. We had, the next slide please, we had already regional concepts in place in the 80s on the level of federal states. You know, we are a decentralized state, and it's very often quite difficult to regulate something on the federal, on the central level. The German Circular Economy Act entered into force only on 1st June 2012. with the aim of promoting the conservation of natural resources and ensuring the protection of people and the environment and the generation and management of waste. Of course, since 2012, we have implemented a lot of supplementary ordinances. And to concretize the Circular Economy Act, in October 2020, there was an amendment to implement the EU Waste Framework Directive, what was already adopted in July 2018. It has taken almost 2 years to put it into national legislation. The next, please. In Germany, we have a clear waste hierarchy. The first is to avoid waste. The second, preparation for reuse. The third point is recycling. The fourth priority is the other recycling, especially energy recovering and backfilling. And the fifth, disposal. In the practice, we have, you can get the impression that recycling is the most important point and not the avoidance, unfortunately. So we have some space to improve. The next, please. The Federal Ministry of Environment has published the following information agreed upon with the federal states on how to implement and apply the waste hierarchy rules imposed by the Circular Economy Act. We have application guidances and guidelines, the hierarchical levels of recycling. We have an enforcement is energetic recovery of hazardous waste from industrial processes is considered to be equal to material recovery processes. And the 5-level waste hierarchy, in particular, the priority of recycling over recovery and disposal. The next, please. I have found a very interesting graphic how a typical waste bin in Germany looks like. I was really surprised that every German produces 455 kilograms of waste per year per capita. And you see the residual waste is the most important part, but also paper. And I was really surprised, as I am a smoker, that my cigarettes needs some 10, 15 years to really die. And as you see, plastic bottles, this is really a very large problem for the future. The next slide, please. We have developed in Germany 5 rules against the throwaway culture. First, avoid destruction of returned goods. Secondly, giving priority to recycled products. Thirdly, retailers will have to bear the cleaning costs. Fourth, stricter rules for recycling. And last but not least, fifth, the separate collection of waste, paper, plastic, metal, or glasses. What is sometimes a very complicated science for people for not Germans coming first time to Germany and to learn what to put where into what colored box. The next, please. Measures for the future. Since summer 2021, disposable cutlery and dishes made of plastic are forbidden in Germany. they have to be replaced by other products. In January, there will be a ban on lightweight plastic carrier bags in Germany. There is one exception, the very tiny, very lightweight plastic carrier bags will be allowed. It's for hygienic reasons. And I thank you for your attention. And I'm very happy that Uri will follow me.
Yeah, thank you very much. And actually, you told that every German produces almost 0.5 ton of waste a year, but honestly speaking, Germans are only disposing of that waste. Producers of most of that waste are the producers of the packaging. But yet there is a way to reduce those wastes, and there is a way to make those packagings more environment friendly. And I'm happy that Uri is with us today. He is among those people who are making our packaging more environment friendly. Я очень рад представить сегодня руководителя генерального директора КНАУ в Петроборд Юрия Михайлова. Юрий?
Добрый день. Немножко видно презентацию мою, да? Видно?
Да, все видно, пожалуйста.
Наше предприятие является примером того, как перерабатываются и утилизируются отходы. Отходом в данном случае является это упаковка, макулатура, и мы перерабатываем ее на предприятии, которое находится в городе Коммунар Ленинградской области и принадлежит фирме КНАУ. Немного необычная фирма КНАУ занимается строительными материалами, но тем не менее одним из видов стратегического сырья для производства гипсовых строительных плит является картон. Да? И вот из макулатуры, из вторсырья мы этот картон здесь производим. Предприятие достаточно немаленькое, это располагается на 64 гектарах, и на предприятии работает около 700 человек. Значит, мы перерабатываем в год 250 тысяч тонн макулатуры. И примерно столько же делаем готовой продукции. Переходя вот к этому нашему сырью, макулатуре, это вторсырье, процесс заготовки его выглядит следующим образом. Нашими основными источниками являются супермаркеты. Супермаркеты и цикл заготовки выглядит следующим образом. У нас есть партнеры, потому что большое количество макулатуры, это мы считаем, в школах это 1 тонна за полгода, а в магазинах, это, на заводах это, скажем, 40 тонн в месяц. Это уже достаточно серьезное количество макулатуры. При нашем потреблении в месяц около 21 тысячи тонн, понимаете, что мы сами как бы этого хватить всего не можем, поэтому партнеры собирают в небольших объемах вот эти из источников макулатуру, в том числе частично от населения, тоже к этому еще вернусь, и привозят на свои площадки, где они сортируют макулатуру по сортам и прессуют ее для того, чтобы транспорт был менее дорогим. Да? После этого доставляется это уже большими грузовиками по 20 тонн на наше предприятие и складируется либо на открытом складе, либо на закрытом складе. Мы на складе обычно держим двухнедельную потребность в макулатуре, это около 10 тысяч тонн. Это нормальная, комфортная потребность для нас. Источниками макулатуры является на 90% для нас это ритейл, типографии и промышленные предприятия. предприятия. Там процесс сбора налажен достаточно хорошо, учитывая то, что цены на вот эти отходы тоже не маленькие. Сейчас они с прошлого года выросли где-то в 3 раза. Был определенный дефицит даже макулатуры, мы столкнулись с некоторыми трудностями. И поэтому там это хорошо организовано и охвачено, и мы оттуда все получаем. Да? Но, тем не менее, проблемным является источник, это от жилищных хозяйств. Там, к сожалению, в силу пока что очень слабо организованного раздельного сбора мы получаем крайне мало из этого источника. И в настоящий момент делаются определенные шаги с точки зрения региональных операторов для организации раздельного сбора, но региональные операторы пока что не готовы вкладывать туда сами деньги в контейнеры, в этот раздельный сбор. Но мы пока что в рамках пилотных проектов находим определенные компромиссы, где наши партнеры вот такого рода контейнеры устанавливают на территориях жилищных хозяйств, и после определенного, скажем там, опыта мы будем уже двигаться дальше с точки зрения того, чтобы эти схемы уже стали полностью рабочими и расширялись. Дальше, значит, в макулатуре происходит производственный процесс. На этой схеме показано, как организовано наше, в общем, производство. Сырьем является макулатура. На нашем предприятии есть 2 картоноделательные машины, где после переработки макулатуры мы на этих машинах получаем уже готовую продукцию в виде с одной машины коробочный картон, который идет для упаковки, и с другой машины облицовочный картон, который идет для производства гипсокартонных листов. Это связано с большим водооборотом нашего производства. У нас есть свои котельные, которые в том числе и снабжают город, отапливают город Коммунар. И мы также, ввиду большого водооборота этого процесса, очищаем сточные воды как свои, так и близлежащих фабрик тоже. Далее, в процессе переработки, мало того, что мы уже изначально перерабатываем отходы, которые образуются в ритейле, типографиях и на фабриках. Кроме этого, в самом производственном процессе, так как макулатура приходит к нам загрязненная, и есть те виды отходов, которые мы не можем перерабатывать, мы тоже занимаемся процессами, скажем, снижения этих отходов, и в частности, некоторые отходы, которые получаются в процессе производства, мы смогли использовать дальше, в частности, ловленное, скажем, нашими фильтрами бумажное волокно мы сушим и отправляем на наше же предприятие, которое делает гипсоволокнистые листы, это в Дзержинске. Гипсоволокнистые листы состоят из примерно 15% макулатуры, и остальное 85% это гипс. Это смешивается между собой, затворяется водой, прессуется, получаются такие листы, которые идут на элементы пола, и для других целей тоже. Таким образом, мы уже вторичный цикл использования отходов сначала макулатуры, потом уже в нашем производстве часть, в основном, так сказать, получаем готовые продукты с использованием этих отходов. Здесь показаны наши производства, они достаточно современные, автоматизированные, и производство достаточно непростое, сложное, энергоемкое, и оборудование тоже достаточно дорогое, которое используется для этого. И показаны виды продуктов. Это коробки, которые получаются из нашего коробочного картона или поступают на гипсокартонные заводы, и производится гипсостроительная плита КНАУ, которая тоже всем известна. Вот, в общем-то, все, что я хотел сказать по поводу переработки. У нас достаточно большой объем, мы расширяемся. как с точки зрения производства, так и с точки зрения того, что мы работаем по различным направлениям, скажем, использования отходов. Это одно из направлений, это использование на гипсоволокнистом производстве. Кроме этого есть тоже пластик, который приходит в виде загрязнения с макулатуры, и тоже по этому направлению мы работаем с тем, чтобы найти дальнейшее применение этому виду отходов. Вот все, что я хотел сказать. Спасибо за внимание.
Спасибо большое, спасибо. Thank you very much. Honestly speaking, I wasn't participating in building up this agenda, but it's funny to see, and it's a pleasure to see two suppliers of our own company, BSH, present here and speaking about the green economy and the green efforts, because it means that we, as their partner, are also going in the green direction. And the company that the countries, excuse me, that in my own experience associates very much with the word green and with tulips and with everything beautiful and nice is the Netherlands. And my utmost pleasure is to present to you, Mr. Consul General of the Kingdom of Netherlands in St. Petersburg, Mr. Carl Spersman. Carl?
Thank you, Anton. Spasibo большое. I will try to be brief and help you a little because I see that you're running out of your schedule. My name is Carl Spersman. For those who do not know me, I'm the relatively new Consul General of the Netherlands here in St. Petersburg. And first of all, I would like to thank the association for inviting me. It's the first time I have to get to know you, be it electronically, and I hope we can do that in the flesh one time soon after. And I would just want to express how happy we are that you do this at this time. It's very timely and topical to do this in the aftermath of Glasgow, where we had many of our leaders of government present, though not all, alas. Hopefully we will do better next time. There's always a second chance. Much has been said about the circular economy. I will not repeat that because I think that the hierarchy of waste management is now recognized by all of us. We did that in the Netherlands in the late 1970s. And we are now on our way to be a functioning circular economy by 2050, fully. And we are taking various measures to encourage the social climate that's open for behavioral change. To create such an ecosystem. We strongly believe in that, to have an economy which is more open and which is more robust and cross-functional and which offers room for innovation and opportunities for new business ideas. The first step is that we will cut back our raw materials by 50% in 2030. So that's only 9 years from now. And for that, we have signed with Dutch parties in the Netherlands a so-called National Raw Materials Agreement. And we try to achieve that we concentrate on those sectors of chapters of economy which are at the same time the most economically valuable and add value to our economy, and at the same time are very risky because of the environmental damage that may come from them. And we have that discerned, those chapters. One is biomass and food production. Another one is plastic production and consumption. The third one is manufacturing in general. And the fifth one is construction. So these are the chapters that we work with. To get the country and people to that, we think that the policy should start by leading by example. So another marker is 2022. Then we have agreed that national government spending, 10% of that should be circular. And to encourage companies to do the same, to have their plans and actually implement those plans, we have developed our national Green Deal. So there is a Green Deal at EU level, but there's also At national level, we have those plans where we try to help companies by see what we can do about regulations, to give them access to networks, and to give them assistance with entering markets. It is safe to say that there is general support for engaging in a circular economy in the Netherlands, but that has not always been the case, to be frank. We had to transform and are transforming our country's entire economic system, and you can't do that without the support of the population. So in the beginning, the circular economy was seen as something associated with lower quality products, with less choice and making sacrifices. And to steer people away from that thought, small-scale initiatives, many of them were developed, like, for instance, we promoted jeans being made from old jeans. We have a plan in many of our bigger cities for renting a bike instead of buying a new one all the time. So it's a very easy one, because you rent a bike at low cost, and if it gets to be repaired, you just return it. So that's a win-win situation. Also, we have tried to adapt our financial system, because even if the spirit is to change, then it all needs to be paid. And banking in general is now still geared at linear economies, because to invest in circular economy and waste management is a thing that needs to be proved to banks, and the government has helped banks in developing circular economy finance guidelines, so that banks and financial institutions actually see that this is a profitable manner of doing things. Lastly, I hope I'll stick to the time. You know, the Netherlands is an open economy. With Singapore, we are, I guess, amongst the bigger open economies in the world. And the Netherlands, therefore, remains committed to developing an international economic system that's effective, sustainable, and less wasteful. Dutch government, companies, knowledge institutions, NGOs, and the so-called private-public platform, Holland Circular Hotspot, they all work together with partners all over the world, governments, companies, NGOs, to exchange ideas on policy making, on technical know-how, on networks and innovations, going from the certainty that we have to learn from each other's successes and mistakes. So to give a few examples, we work on issues like circular agri-food production, water and waste management, chemical recycling, as we saw the example by our Norwegian colleagues, as well as by Knauf, and innovative packaging. Lastly, I would like to mention an initiative that we took. We have the so-called Influentials program, and in that program, we also received a group of Russian policymakers, and I'm happy to see that Mr. Ruslan Gubaidulin is here with us as well, because he took part in that program. So, staying in time, together we can ensure our countries are ready to make the circular shift, because, as we all know, the future is circular. And it is therefore my pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Rodrigo Davalos, who is Procurement Service Director at Heineken, another company here represented in the Petersburg area, who will now elaborate about circularity from his company's perspective. Anton, back to you, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you. And indeed, it would be bad to miss the company which own color is green. So Heineken is green by default, we could assume, but still it would be very interesting to hear about Heineken's experience, especially because it's a long-standing and well-known investor in Northwest region. Rodrigo, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Anton, and thank you, Carl, for the warm words and the invitation to participate and show our approach into circular economy. First of all, I would like to start mentioning that the Heineken revised strategy is called Evergreen, and it has sustainability at its heart. So sustainable agriculture, sustainable packaging are all within the heart of the strategy. So in this case, I'm showing the sustainable strategy. In this case, I will focus on the environmental pillar, mainly carbon neutrality and circularity. And as we know, for Heineken, the major or the biggest contributor to CO2 emissions is packaging. So I will take the Russia example of our approach to set the scene for our rest of our operations. It is not a one-size-fits-all approach. We need to take into account two main topics, which is the recovery method and the pack type approach. And there we will need to go, given the country context, into what we want to achieve and focus on. So first, I will speak about the recovery method and how we are looking to increase the maturity within Russia. So we start currently, there are the processes that we have scavengers or EPR suppliers that go into the landfills and collect the packaging waste and separate it, which is very labor intensive. It is not the best way. You don't get the quality, as Yuri mentioned, in the packaging waste. But still, it is a way not to contribute to the landfill or to a linear economy. What we want to do is to move and shift into waste processing plant recovery, which is basically adding automation and separation processes into the waste operators. There we see a challenge, as also Yuri mentioned, on the investment required. So we are trying to join forces with other companies to do this investment, but also, as we've seen, it helps speed up if the government has some investment towards this part. Then on to the more mature parts, it's consumer separation. So this has to do with incentivizing consumers to return the packaging and giving them a discount by returning the packaging. And last, but where we see the most developed right now is deposit recovery systems, where the consumer itself pays a deposit, which is then reimbursed when they return the packaging. This is already embedded in 10 of the countries in Europe, the biggest ones being Germany and Netherlands. But also the municipal separation. So Germany also mentions that, and in the Netherlands, there are particular places to deposit and separate your dispose of your trash. So now I will go into the pack types and our approach in Russia. So we are focusing at this stage, firstly on bottles. And why is that? Because we see that the recycled rate or the recycled percentage in this packaging is low. So the Russia market is around 15%, while we see that the global average is somewhere around 60–70%. The challenge here is linked to the recovery method, that there is no consistency and to ensure supply to our packaging suppliers, which makes it quite difficult to recover. Also, the glass cullet processors is not yet mature enough, but we want to lead this as it is one of our biggest pack types. Following to that, we also have our main pack type, which is cans. This is in a second level due to already the aluminum is quite better in recycled rates. So we have something in Russia, we have something around 35% of our cans are already have 35% of recycled content. Again, versus the global average of 70%, it is not, we still have a way to go. The issue we have there is that our packaging suppliers, or mainly the smelters or rollers, are in Russia is a monopoly, and they're vertically integrated. So we need to work together to explain how reusing or recycling will have an impact on their return on assets, or reduce their revenue, but increase their profitability. So this is a discussion we've started with our suppliers and their suppliers in the full value chain, but it's work in progress. In stage 3, yeah, as Yuri mentioned, the paper, this is, in our view, we are at 75% in Russia, which is quite good. It is at the level of a global average. Heineken is, in Russia, it's near 80%, which is the best in class average. So therefore, we put it at a later stage. And finally, PET. The reason we put PET at the end is that it is not one of our main pack types. We are more looking into joint forces with FMCG companies that have their primary pack type is PET, and therefore we want to join forces and work together with them. And what we see is that packaging closed loops bring obvious CO2 emission reduction and increase profitability if done correctly. You know? Now I will share some of the Heineken best practice across some of the OPCOs. So some of you might have seen this in the media. In the United Kingdom, we are running a proof of concept where we are reaching in a Heineken bottle, one-way bottle, almost 100% of recycled glass. This is actually breaking a paradigm that the higher recycled rate you get, the lower the quality. So this is the intention, to break that paradigm, but also working with our suppliers, lowering the carbon footprint using biofuel instead of fossil fuel energy. So yeah, this is one of the cases where we're striving to get to the 100% in recycled content. Next, I will go to Spain, where it's fair to say that right now our supply chain, or our internal production recycled rate is at 95% or over. But what we are doing in Spain, it's actually to avoid using a recycler and really doing the separation, the cleaning at our brewery sites, and returning that material direct to the supplier. So it reduces also transportation costs, emissions, by doing this, which is a very nice project implemented during 2020. This is another one in Brazil. I know we went out of Europe, but we worked together with one of our suppliers installing systems where consumers can go and deposit their pack types or end bottles and get a discount for new products, enabling that closing the loop in that sense. And yes, that was what I wanted to share, and looking forward to work closer together to reach our common goals in sustainability.
Thank you, Rodrigo. And thank you also for, let's say, enlarging our perspective, broadening it, and bringing Brazil in view. Because now we are going to the country, to the nation, which legally does not belong to EU or geographically to what we call Europe, but still is considered a very important part of our community. And we are always happy to greet our Israeli friends here. And it's my pleasure to invite here Mr. Uri Resnick, Consul General of Israel in St. Petersburg. My apologies for keeping you a little late behind the schedule, but I hope you understand that we all want to get as much as possible from our meeting today. Mr. Resnick, the floor is yours.
Absolutely, thank you. I'll be brief given the time constraints as well. Of course, I'm very pleased to be here and really want to thank the Association of European Businesses for inviting us to take part. Both the EU and European countries individually are obviously at the forefront of green technologies and circular economy. And so it's really an honor for us to be in such prestigious company. We've clearly come to the right place. Clearly, as you know, the Glasgow summit underscored the issue of green tech and sustainability is very high on the global agenda. It's high on Israel's agenda as well. It's very important for leaders and for countries to articulate bold visions and set out ambitious goals, because awareness is obviously very key. It's very instrumental towards policy change. But at the end of the day, ambition is not enough. We need, of course, actions and policies. And from our perspective in Israel, there's two main components here. The first is regulation, of course, implementing regulation. And the second is creating incentives with two main goals. First, allocating funds for investments in green tech and various relevant technologies, and setting up proper incentivized taxation schemes to kind of direct economic activity in accordance. So Israel is well on its way on both levels. We have a long way to go. Our main emphasis, as was underscored by our Prime Minister in Glasgow, is in finding ways to mobilize Israel's startup ecosystem and its innovation, the innovation ecosystem, to divert some of those energies, a significant part of it, towards green tech solutions. The main model we have before us in this regard is the Israeli water sector. As maybe some of you know, Israel recycles about 90% of its water. It's by far the largest level, the highest level in the world. So our idea is, and we're quite determined to try and duplicate this in other sectors where we don't have the same kind of figures. So how do we do this? Regulation and incentives. In terms of regulation, so Israel has in place several decades of environmental legislation in place, whether having to do with maintaining cleanliness in general, or recycling, waste removal, dealing with hazardous substances, deposits on bottles, and so on and so forth. One of the activities we've had and are quite proud of is a long-standing relationship with the EU Commission in twinning projects. We just completed the third such two-year twinning project on waste management, covering both regulatory issues and implementation issues. So this is a very strong, very important cooperation that we have. The government has committed to establishing a national circular economy plan to integrate circular economy in industry. And over recent years, there's been various instruments that have been put into place to encourage businesses to adopt circular economy inside their activities. There's obviously more to do, but the basic regulatory architecture is in place. The second thing is incentives, and this is something that our Prime Minister spoke about and announced actually at Glasgow, the establishment of a national task force, called it the Green Sandbox, to develop a strategy for really marshalling the high-tech sector in Israel and the startup sector towards green tech. at its core of this initiative, the basic idea is a government fund to set up a matching scheme for diverting investments to green technologies and to stimulate investments in this regard. And our own experience, I would say, in Israel from these kinds of government prioritization schemes has been good, whether it's both in the water sector, where we've had good results, and in other sectors, high tech and cyber, obviously. These are things also that enjoy these kind of government instruments, and we've seen that that's worked. So we're hopeful that here too, just in general, in the circular economy and green tech in general, that this will be effective. One last thing I would maybe note in this regard is a recent taxation measure that was passed in recent weeks. It's made our finance minister rather unpopular with Israeli picnic goers, but the finance ministry, together with the Environment Protection Ministry, they doubled the taxation rate, the effective net taxation rate on plastic tableware. And the expectation here, based on the preliminary research that was done, is that this is supposed to, or expected to, reduce consumption of these items by about 40%. So we'll see. It's a new measure. It's highly unpopular amongst the public, but at the end of the day, these are the kinds of measures that could have a real impact. So that's a recent thing. So just to conclude, I think from our perspective, I mean, it's true, what's true in green tech is true in general. The main bridge between vision and ambition and implementation are ultimately is technological innovation. And I think this is really where Israel has maybe something to contribute to the global efforts in this regard. We clearly have our work cut out for us, but we're determined to reach European standards in the coming years. Government is very much focused on this, both in theory and in vision and in practice. And hopefully we'll get there. What I'd like to do maybe now is just introduce Roy Ashkenazi. He's the representative of Tempo Beverages and Barkan Vineyards. We have a theme here of alcoholic beverages, which is maybe apt. And I'll just give the floor to Roy to explain and present the activities of his company in the circular economy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Uri and Roy. Welcome to this small club of environment lovers. Please go ahead and tell us about your experience.
Okay, so you are seeing my presentation?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, so my name is Roey Ashkenazi, and I'm the environmental manager of Tempo and Barkan. I want to thank you about the opportunity to present our experience in waste management. For little introduction, Tempo is the home of a top domestic and international brand producing beer, wine, energy, and soft drinks. Tempo dominates on 44% of a beer market, 26% of a wine market, and 17% of soft drink. Between the leading brands are Heineken, PepsiCo, Pernod, and Nestle Water, and our top domestic beer is Gold Star. So the transformation from linear to circular economy, for decades, the economy works in a linear way. You take your raw material, make the product, and throw it away. Okay, and as the environmental awareness rised up and the need for the industry to become more efficient, the circular economy conception was thrived. And circular economy challenged us to rethink about the sources and the outputs of the production chain. We try to reduce the virgin material and transform the outputs to a usable resource. So when we try to think what are the inputs, so we have raw materials, we have water and energy, of course the production, the beer and the beverages, and the outputs or non-product outputs are gas emission, industrial effluent, and waste. So starting the waste management, we need to think about the non-product outputs as a valuable source. And we need to identify, to understand what the the amount, the opportunities. And I will show you some example for waste streams that we are identified. The industrial effluent, steel, wood, brewer grain residues, condensation, carbon dioxide, biogas. And all of these are the output that we need to rethink how to use them in the reduce, reuse, or recycle. So after mapping the waste stream, the first step is reducing the raw material. And this is the first step for saving money. Firstly, we implement an advanced data analysis for monitoring electricity, water, steam consumption in order to identify leaks. The following example is from the last month. Analysis of water counter in one of our cooling towers showed increased water consumption in the winter time. So we can see on July and August, this is the summertime, a high water consumption in our cooling water. And when the winter or autumn time started on September, October, we are expected to see a reduce of water usage in the cooling tower, just like the month before. But when we notice that there is the same trend or the same amounts of water that consumed in this cooling water tower, we found that there is a waste of water. We found the leaking valve and was able to reduce the water and save some money. Another project that we have, the optimization of chemical usage, CIPs of containers, automation of packaging, optimization of producing planning in order to, again, reduce cleaning of the tanks, the filling lines, and reduction and cost-effective advanced technologies in order to reduce water, reduce energy consumptions, and to actually to be better, to reduce the inputs in order to save the same amount. Here's some more examples for controlling the consumption of resources. We have electrical usage monitoring. This is an example. We have much more detectors, but this helps us to understand the trends of each energy source and to understand when we need to be focused on treat. We get a personal alert to email if my wastewater is too large. I can understand there is a waste of water. Okay, there is too much water coming into the system, and to help to find leaking valves or problems, and the water consumption per working area. Again, to understand the trend of each area. The second stage is reuse of your non-product outputs. And a nice example is using used glass bottle from consumers. It's connect to the previous lecture of Heineken. Glass bottles from consumer are collected, cleaned, and refilled. But before we did it, we did a study, a carbon footprint study that showed that using reused bottles from the consumers are much more eco-friendly and lower carbon dioxide. It's actually the greenhouse gas. Much more eco-friendly and greenhouse and carbon dioxide emitted than the new glass bottles or recycled gas bottles. So we work very hard to implement in the society the understanding of reuse, and build another line that reuse the bottles before filling. We're doing a regeneration of energy and water, reuse yeast for making a beer for several generations, use condensation water, And this is interesting. Emitted carbon, to think about carbon dioxide as a resource, because it is interesting because in one end, carbon dioxide is emitted during the beer fermentation process. But in the other end, we are buy carbon dioxide for beer and soda production process. So if we will be wise to collect this carbon dioxide, we can save money. And when we look on the carbon dioxide collection meter, okay, or the trend in the last year, we can see that we was able to collect or saved from purchasing or emitted to the atmosphere about 865 tons. Right? As I said, it's not just doing the process of recycling, but we want to share this our consumers. Okay, the ecological benefits of recycling bottles and to harness them to recycle as much as they can. Okay, so we do some advertising campaign, doing better to the environment. We did packaging of half-liter beers, doing better doing the environment and drinking, returning, and doing better doing the environment. Very focused on it to the population, and both this method was pushed in social media and PR, and we see an increase of recycling from the consumers. The last step is to recycle. Industrial effluent as water resource. We think about our industrial effluent, or our industrial effluent are treated in our wastewater treatment plant for secondary treatment, and send it to the municipal wastewater treatment plant for crop irrigation. It corresponds with Uri beginnings. Effluent reclamation is a national goal here in Israel, and you can see the usage of effluent as a water resource, as a big water resource in the national level. We are, moreover, the brewer grain residues, pomace, wine pomace is sold to feed animals. Our most of our waste, wood, steel, plastic, glass are collected, classified, and sold for other industries by licensed recycle companies. So we are doing a circular economy. When we think about the future, there are a lot of future projects we are examining this time, and as strategic plans for the following years. One is big project is a photovoltaic system installation, to think about it as a green and renewable energy. The use of biogas. Biogas is a byproduct in our wastewater treatment process that now is burning in a torch. But we try to think about a way to collect and reuse it. It's a large economical benefit and a large ecological benefit, because it will come instead of fuel. We want to transform fuel boilers to electrical boilers and start to store energy from renewable energy source. I said that our industrial effluent is going for crop irrigation, but we want to really think about it, and we use it in-house instead of fresh water for our need. And we're doing an efficient use of air compressor in order to regulate peak demand. I think as a company, the big challenge is to find a way to connect between the ecological and economical project. This is actually this is what I love in the environmental area, to be the bridge between the economical to understand what the needs of the factory and to prove the ecological area as well. Thank you.
Toda raba, Roy. Thank you very much. And indeed, it was a very interesting experience. And, you know, I've never thought about the very simple, actually, idea that one of the ways to reduce the carbon footprint is just to collect that carbon dioxide. I think it has to be thought over by many production companies, and think about, you know, collecting that. It might be really a way to go in this direction. Thank you. And thus, we are finished with our speakers program. And we've got most of questions that we received in our Q&A session answered. The only question left is addressed to Mr. Pora, who unfortunately had to leave us earlier. But I think we all, as participants, may be able to say a couple of words on that particular question. And the question is, that the proposed Russian taxonomy, I believe it means the taxonomy of wastes, does not have such a parameter as waste prevention. Moreover, it does have the incineration. So what do you think about incineration as a way to treat wastes, and how we all, and especially Russia, can go further in the waste prevention? Any ideas? You are all welcome to speak. It's let's say a free microphone mode now.
Yeah, maybe I can comment on that one. So in the ash or incineration, it is the end of the process, and we should strive to collect and separate before it gets to that point. So indeed, there are technologies to separate ash and recollect materials in that sense, but that it takes energy to get to that point, which we want to capture before it gets there.
Thank you, Rodrigo. Any other opinions on that particular matter? No, I think that's it. Okay, then I think we have done a great job today, colleagues, because we have overviewed a lot of regulatory issues and practices from our countries, and raised a lot of issues, saw a lot of solutions to those issues, and definitely saw the road that we will all have to go. there was a question that was answered, but still I would love to make a short comment on that. The question was about the benefits for the sustainable companies, for the sustainable benefits, businesses. Well, you know, we are all in the same boat. And it's now, I believe, the life or death matter. It's not like we are only looking for any benefits as businesses and countries. We are now looking for the way to ensure that next generations and perhaps even our generation lives in a normal environment and basically just lives in this world. So in my particular opinion, and I believe many of you share this, it's now not only a matter of business benefits or any benefits at all, it's a matter of our responsibility to the world, to our families, to ourselves. And thank you very much today for this great discussion when we really could see that we have solutions for many problems and we have enthusiasts that are ready to bring up those solutions to the world. Thank you very much again. I think this discussion just starts a series of discussions on the platform of AAB, as Ernesto mentioned in the very introduction, and have a very nice green day today. Thank you.